day before the race was quite hard really. One of the things about this race is that it starts at 1 in the morning, so I knew I was going to be struggling with sleep. So Thursday night I tried to go to sleep early, or no, I went to bed about 12. I bought some earphones and an iPad, an iThing to try and help me sleep, but I still woke at 5:30. I dozed on and off till about 9, got up at 9, spent the day just getting myself organised and making sure I had all the equipment I needed. In the afternoon I went for a little walk down to Morrison's and back, and then went to bed about 3:30 to try and get a little bit of a sleep, which I did for about an hour or so, dozed anyway. And then we got up, had some food. Stevie and Donald came round and we chatted about the race and our plans ahead and what we were going to do. And I just felt more and more nervous and just ready to actually get going and to make our way over to Mulgai for the start of the race.
Bobby always tells me there's lots of different terror and everything.
I watch everybody's faces.
Does that work? Is that a video?
Is there something when we have the briefing to come back and get your stuff, or do you need to take everything?
Once we got to Mulgai, it was a great scene. Loads of the car park was full. It's about 11:30 by the time we got there and parked, and met up with a number of friends that I'd run with on training runs. Also met Ian and Rachel, who were a couple who I'd corresponded with, who'd printed out Renita's poem on the t-shirt and gave me a couple of copies. That was really nice. Went across to the registration and got my wristband and find out about the different things that we needed to know for the race. Went back, met a few more people, got my kit on and ready. 12:30 went across to the briefing. Didn't hear too much of it, I was just on the outside of the room. But basically I think it's pretty similar each year, and Ian sort of told me the things that I probably missed. And then around about 1:15 went back to the car, went to the van, got my bum bag and made my way to the start. And so after 8 months of training and planning, it was just a few minutes away, and met again 1 or 2 people like Joe and Peter, people I'd run with, wished them all the best. Saw Ian just before he was about to start as well, and then 1 o'clock the race started.
Well, we're standing at the start, we're about half an hour away from the start of the race, and I think this is a bit where everybody always feels a bit terrified, particularly looking around, those that haven't done it before. It's a terrifying half hour, just wondering what's ahead. I'm really quite excited this year, looking forward to it. Feel hopefully quite good, sleeping's gone alright, but the weather this year is going to be the big unknown. I don't think it's going to be too hot, we're going to get probably heavy rain at stages, and that'll be just the big unknown, and who knows what will happen. So I guess I just want to wish everybody all the best to John. He's trained very hard, I'm sure he'll do well. Hopefully 30 seconds behind me. We'll see. Anyway, best of luck to everybody.
I didn't get the photo. I was shouting. No, I was shouting.
first section, Mulgai to Balmaha, went pretty much to plan. I was aiming for around about 3.5 hours to Balmaha, and that's exactly what I did in the end. Set off running with, obviously there's 104 started, and was able to find a little group that I ran with, chatted with 1 or 2 people along the way, made a slight wrong turn in Mulgai Wood, but that was fine. We all did that and got back onto the route. I had a number of checkpoints that I was pretty well on time to. The weather wasn't great, but it was cool, a little bit of rain, but no real problem. Quite dark though. We did the training run 3 weeks before, and I think this was darker. And the head torch I had from Ernie, from church, was brilliant, and that gave me a great view, and it cleared the path, so that was good. Ran with Aileen Scott for a while, that we'd done the training run with. Once we got onto the long path past the distillery, I was on my own. I was just catching 1 or 2 people, and then I ran with David Aikins for a bit. Went past Beech Tree, feeling good, saw Katrina and the family, gave them a little wave.
Great flashing, John. Well done, John. Here we are at Drummond. We've been travelling 1 hour and 31 minutes. We just saw John at the last stop at Beech Tree Inn, going really well, bouncing along, flashing away. Didn't take his jacket. 5 minutes later, down came a huge downpour, so he's probably soaking through. So we're waiting for him to come through now, probably in the next half an hour.
Go. Hello, we're at Balmaha right now. We lost Renita earlier, but she has been found again.
Woo!
Here she is.
Only
Here's
I
right now
could lose 100 vans
Laura.
and get lost.
and she's learning how to text.
I am. I hope you got it.
What do you want to do with it?
So yes, we are now waiting for you. About an hour to wait.
Yeah, about an hour to wait.
About an hour to wait for you. So hope you come
Laura,
soon.
there's
Laura's
two
stirring
bags
up on
of
Hope
something.
you're
food
doing
behind
well.
you. Andy,
Bye.
how can you
Mwah.
not fight?
Go. Well, I stuck my head in a little skunk's hole, and the little skunk said, well, bless my soul, take it out, take it out, take it out, take it out, remove it. Well, I didn't take it out, and the little skunk said, if you don't take it out, you wish you were dead. Take it out, take it out, take it out, take it out, remove it. Shh, I removed it. Too late.
And made my way through, got to Drimmin right on time, on 2 hours, quick stop there, and then on my way to Balmaha over the woods. And that was the first bit really that was a bit more difficult, because there's a bit where you turn left and then immediately right into the forest, and there was a car there saying it was a diversion. They said go straight down and turn right. So I started running down the hill, and I'm not quite sure what was going on really. Met a car coming up, and the passenger leaned out and said, have you been told to come this way? And I said yes, and then he drove on, so I thought, oh, is this right? And just then another runner, a guy called Colin, was on his way up the hill, and he'd gone past the turn off and had to run back up. But there was a turn off to the right, big diversion sign, so the pair of us ran together and chatted for a while. I felt really sorry for Colin, because he must have run a good 10 minutes, if not more, up and down the hill, which you don't need in the first 3 hours of a 95-mile race. Anyway, we ran together through the wood, got back onto the proper path, up over Connick Hill. The mist was really low and it was pretty miserable then. Colin was a little bit quicker on the downhill, but I was quicker on the uphill over Connick. And I saw a runner ahead and really surprised to see Ian. He said he wasn't going too well, the diversion annoyed him a bit. But anyway, we sort of ran into Balmaha together, and arriving in about 3.5 hours. There's not an official checkpoint at Balmaha, but obviously the support team are there. So I took my top off, that was pretty wet, put a sleeveless top on, had a quick rub down, got some more food and drink on board, and then set off pretty quickly, only stopped for 2 or 3 minutes. But immediately setting off, my left knee was really starting to be sore, and I was limping for a bit. As soon as I got going, it was fine. But I realised from that point onwards, I'd have to be really careful, because I wasn't going to manage to be able to run unless, or stop too long, because it would seize up. The thing that I was concerned about, my shin, was absolutely fine. It hurt for the first 20 minutes, it hurt after about 20 minutes, but then after an hour or so I never felt it, and I ran the whole race without feeling my shin at all.
Go. Hi, at Rowadannan. I've been going for 5 hours and 3 minutes. Really pleased, I'm right on target, maybe just a little bit ahead. Feels like I'm going well. My legs are fine, groin's okay, shin's okay.
Happy days.
And I'm really enjoying it. It's a lovely weather to run in. You know, it's cool and it's good. So that's just over a quarter of the distance, and very happy indeed.
Something. Oh, it's on record.
Oh, for flip's sake.
Yo.
Well, you join us here at Benglass Farm, awaiting John. He's slightly ahead of schedule. He's running well. It's about 40 miles into the race now. We've all been well fed and watered after our McDonald's experience. We've since met up with Stevie and Donald, passed the reins over to them. They are now in full flow of John's running team. So it's been a sad moment having to hand it over, but we're here in sport, to support. We're here in spirit and in truth. As you can see, the midge are out, so we shall go and we'll see you soon when John arrives.
Video mode.
We are.
Go on, John, run!
Run! Woo!
Hiya.
How are you?
Have you got any spare water? Yep. Maybe get a couple of plasters for the next stop as well, just to equate two plasters.
How are you feeling? You're quite...
Oh, Laura, you're full with us.
You're running well.
Oh, I'm just really enjoying it.
That doesn't match your shorts.
Oh, it's alright. I'm sure it doesn't really matter at this moment in time.
Oh my word, that don't match.
Is it getting hot?
I don't match. It's fine.
I'll give you more water at the next stoplight, $1. Sorry? Give you water at $1.
I haven't got any water.
I'll give you.
Bye. Bye. Run faster.
Run slower.
9:16 that was.
I think I swallowed another midgie.
Right, let's go.
Section is from Benglass to Bridge of Orchy, and that was a pretty solid section. I set off from Benglass Farm. It was so good having seen everybody and seen the guys from the club as well that had come up to watch, and continued to run with Mark, and we walked and we ran into Derry Darragh, which is about sort of 3 miles away. Spent some of the time thinking about wonder where Ian was, but we sort of carried on. Mark stopped a little bit longer at Derry Darragh. I just literally grabbed some stuff. Donald gave me something to eat, and then Stevie walked with me for a little bit out of Derry Darragh. And then there's a long section there where you go sort of up undulating road, that's a bit hard, into Crianlarich Forest. By then Mark had caught up and we ran this whole section together. And through the forest above Crianlarich, it's a nice section, but there's some very steep uphills and downhills. Can't quite sure when the last downhill is down to the road. But eventually we got down, crossed over the road, past St Filian's and then into Orchy. Mark, as we arrived, Mark said he was going to spend longer here, whereas I was trying to keep moving really because my knee was, I knew it was going to get sore if I stopped too long. So that was the last I saw of Mark for a good while. I carried on, went through Tindrum, met up with a guy called Tim who, first thing he said to me was, oh, I know you really well from your blog. Also said that he'd run the Sahara Marathon last year, which is a 5-day, 150-mile trek, and he reckons this was harder. Went through Tindrum, and literally once I stepped over the line at Tindrum, which is the end of the fling, I realised that this was going to be new territory now, and everything from now on was going to be extra miles that I'd never done in one go before. And came out of Tindrum, saw the guys from the club that were there to cheer. Tim ran up the hill and I just let him go and he soon disappeared. And that was my toughest part, I think. For the next 45 minutes I found it really hard, just toiling away up the hill, knowing that Ian was probably going to catch me, which he did after about 45 minutes or so. He came past me running really strongly and very quickly got 20, 30, 40 yards ahead. And I remember thinking, is that it? You going to let him go? And I had some grapes a few minutes before. I don't know whether they kicked in or whether it was pride or whatever, but I suddenly got running again. Caught up with Ian, ran together for a little bit, and then he looked as though he'd worked really hard to catch me, so he stopped to walk. I carried on running, got ahead of him. I stopped to walk, he caught up with me. I went ahead again, and it was like this for a while. And because we were sort of pushing each other, suddenly Tim and another runner came into view again, with about a mile or two short of Bridge of Orchy, and I just kept running. Caught up Tim, caught up this other runner, ran into Bridge of Orchy feeling really, really strong. Donald was there at the train station to meet me with some pasta, but I said no, I want to run down, and I pushed it right down into Bridge of Orchy, feeling good.
Well, here we are. I'm just about to leave them. It's Bridge of Orchy. It's been an emotional roller coaster so far. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been loop-the-loops, there's been Katrina at McDonald's, and here we have the last remaining 5.
4. Hi.
4, as Laura is also departing. There's her bottom right there. Lovely. So Holly, starting with you, how do you feel the journey's gone so far?
I think it's gone pretty well. I think he's been ahead of schedule, so he's looking for a good time. 22:22.
That's Holly's tip from the top. Joe?
I've been eaten alive and deprived of sleep.
Okay.
Sleep deprivation, I was going to say that. You can tell! I look like Joe today because I look so rough.
And Katrina, Coffee Kynaston, how are you?
Caffeine overload!
Adios.
I didn't stop long at Bridge of Orchy, but tried to keep moving. Again, Stevie came with me and walked for about half a mile or so, gave me some more pasta and a yogurt to eat, and then he went back down, and we'd arranged that I'd see them at Inveroran Hotel in a couple of miles time to see how I felt, whether I wanted someone to run with me over the Rannoch Moor. Initially I thought it'd be fine, but I must admit I was finding it hard going over the top, and then even worse coming down. And I think those 2 miles from Bridge of Orchy into Inveroran Hotel took me over 50 minutes for a couple of miles, which is really poor. Stevie came back up to meet me and said Donald's going to run with you. Initially I tried to dissuade him. I thought no, I'll be fine. But as soon as I got down, Donald was there ready, and I thought yeah, let's do it. And I'm so glad I did, because over Rannoch Moor, Donald was great. He kept me going, encouraged me to keep running. At that point, as we were going over the Rannoch Moor, we saw Ian behind us going at a nice steady pace, running up the hill and slowly catching us. He got to within about 20 yards of us, and Donald says, come on, let's make it hard for him. I know he's going to pass us, but let's make it hard. And so the next downhill, Donald said, come on, let's just jog. So we started running, and it was funny because as soon as I started running, the distance between us separated. Then I'd stop and walk a little bit, and then Ian would gradually catch again, and then I would run again, and the distance would lengthen. So basically we worked out that Ian had a really good steady pace that he was running the whole time, and I had two paces, one where I was walking and so he'd catch me, the other one where I was running and I would get ahead. But the overall effect was that I stayed ahead of him right into King's House, and probably arrived into King's House just a few minutes ahead of Ian. Again, very quick stop, just enough to grab my drink and then set off walking. At that point Stevie was going to come with me, so he grabbed all the rest of the stuff that I'd need and caught me up after about 5 or 10 minutes. And at this point I realised that I wasn't going to be able to run a lot more. My thighs were just so sore, my quads, they were just really screaming out. I knew I had 2 long downhills to go into Kinlochleven and into Fort William, and every one was going to be really painful. And so I was trying to work out my time. I reckon I was over an hour ahead of my sub 23 schedule at Kinlochleven, at King's House. So even if I was an hour slower, then I could still beat 23 hours, and that was my goal from then on, to walk as hard as I could, run if it was possible, but I wasn't sure if it would be, but not to stop and just to keep going at a good pace. Ian and George passed us just before we got to the bottom of Devil's Staircase, again still going well, and that was the last I saw of Ian, who finished in a personal best time, which was absolutely superb. We started our way up Devil's Staircase, or the climb leading up to the Devil's Staircase, and initially I was gonna lead, but I knew I was struggling, so I asked Stevie to take over, which he did. We could see Ian and George disappearing up the path, and but we just tried to keep going as best we could. Eventually we got to the top, went over the top, and my legs were absolutely sore on the way down. Started gingerly trying to walk down. It got so bad that for a spell I actually walked backwards down the hill, holding onto Steve's arm to guide me, but walking backwards. My thighs were just rock solid and really sore. A little bit later on they eased off a bit, and I was able to at least walk down into Kinlochleven without going backwards again, but it was really tough. 1 or 2 runners went past us, going well, and I realised that I was starting to lose places, but I didn't mind because I was still on target for my sub 23. Got into Kinlochleven after 18 hours, 18 minutes of running, so that was almost 20 past 7 in the evening, and it was good to see Donald there waiting for us, ready for the final 15 miles.
Here we are trying to put the tent up. It's looking a bit wobbly. Here's Mum putting her pole up there. We had injury to my thumb. Sorry. You can see that was Holly.
It was an accident.
It's quite sore. There's Joe there.
Hi there.
Having lots of fun.
Doing fine. All smiles. Going here. So much better with our dad here.
Oh, there we go. Joe nailing.
Number 1 is complete. How do you like my tent in all its glory? We're on to pot number 2.
Well, hey! Peg?
Emma, how come you're getting away with doing nothing?
Thank you.
Handing over.
I'm doing the pegs.
And videoing. Are you kidding? You 3 are all just doing one job together.
Dad, I hope you're having fun, because we are.
We set off from Kinlochleven. Again, I was walking. Donald was going to catch me up, and I set off, tried to keep moving, because I knew that my knee would actually seize up if I stopped too long. So I didn't stop at all, just straight through Kinlochleven, maybe just a minute to grab some water. And then by the time I got to turn right up into the forest, Donald had caught me. and we just tried to make as good a time as we could out of that forest. At least when I went up, my thighs didn't hurt. I felt tired and everything was sore, but my thighs weren't sore. So I knew I had to try and make up as much time as I could on the way up, because it was going to be tough on the way down into Fort William. So we made a decent time, I think, getting up onto the military road. And this is where Donald really came into his own. He realised that I needed to eat to be able to survive this last 4 or 5 hours. And so there was a little pattern of he would hand me a jelly baby, or a fried egg sweet, or a honey stinger, or an energy gel, which I would try and eat. He would then give me a sip of my isotonic water, this orange flavour which I was absolutely fed up of by this time. I've been drinking it for the last 20 hours. Then he'd give me a drink of water, and then we'd walk a little bit more, and then he'd do the whole process again, and this just carried on for the next few hours really. Donald desperately trying to get some food and drink into me. This old military road over the Larrick Muir, you can see it for miles ahead, just undulating, and I knew on a good day I could run it in about an hour from there to Llandovery, maybe a bit more, an hour and a half. But I knew it was going to take me a lot longer today, and so I resigned to the fact that I was going to walk it, but I was going to walk it as fast as I could and really stride out, and that's what I did. Again, we had 1 or 2 runners went past us. I remember Mark Collins going past with his dad and his friend, and it was great to see Mark going well again, and he ended up finishing about 25 minutes ahead of me. And 1 or 2 other runners went past. Each one of them said, "Love the blog, keep it going." So that was great. Eventually got, just before Llandovery, Jody Young went past us, and he was on his own. Donald was a little bit concerned and said, "You okay? Yeah, have you done this before?" I said, "Oh yes, my 7th time." So we thought he didn't need any help, and certainly he was still going well. Got into Llandovery where there was a nice bonfire. I literally did not stop even to pause that point. I just carried on and left Donald to get some more drink and a bit more food, and I carried on trying to walk, because I knew by then that things were going to be tight to get beating sub 23. And at this pace I couldn't waste any time at all, so I just kept walking and pushing it as hard as I could. Donald caught me again after a few minutes, and we made our way along and up into the forest. It was starting to get dark by now, and so we got the torches out, initially just using Donald's handheld one, and then I put my head torch on so we could see our way through the forest. Came out the forest the other side, and or either before or after, but we heard this cry from behind us, and it was Peter who had caught us, and that had been I'd been expecting him to catch us at some point. In fact, the fact that he hadn't caught me until then, I wondered whether he'd dropped out, but he'd had quite a long break at Bridge of Orchy at Transpires, but he was going really, really strongly at the end, and he ran the last section really well, and so he went past us. He had about 3 or 4, I can't remember now, runners with him, and so he disappeared there off down the hill to finish at Fort William.
It's now 20 to 7. We've just had our dinner, and we went and had a real slapper fancy meal at Morrison's. I had a veggie burger, and the other 3 had lasagna, and then we had a flayed cornetto pudding, and it was very, very nice. So we all feel much happier, less grumpier, less off our heads, less tearful, less snappy, less grumpy, and much happier now. Just waiting for John to come in. Hope he'll come in the not too distant future. I'll try very hard not to cry. Any message from the back? Oh, sorry. Keep running, John. Dad. Dad, you cheeky beggar. Bye. Hope to see you soon. Bye. Bye. Hi, we're just at Fort William, right at the end, just at the leisure club is just up there, that way, and we're just waiting for Dad to come in. It's about 8:30, if he comes in any time soon it'll be a really good result, but we don't think he'll be there about 10ish or so, we've just been hanging about here for a while, so we're just waiting for him to come back.
last little section down into Fort William I knew was going to be tough on my quads, and I'd said to Donald a couple of times, I don't know how I'm going to make it down there, but we knew time wise I had to really keep going to be able to beat the sub 23. A couple of times I held on to Donald as we came down a couple of steps, and that seemed to make it easier. So once we got onto the long downhill onto the path through the forest, I just sort of leant on Donald a few times, and that helped me to get just to keep moving. Stevie came running up, and so the three of us for the last 40 minutes or so just walked as fast as we could down into the down to Braveheart car park, where Katrina and the girls were waiting for us. And that last bit was great actually, because we joked and we laughed and we encouraged one another. The end was in sight, and finally we saw the car, and we saw Katrina stop for a quick photograph at the bottom, knowing it was just a couple of miles to go. And then we set off onto the road, and finally saw the signpost which shows the end of the West Highland Way, and then it was just a little 400 yards after that, and then got to the leisure centre, went in, gave my number in, said I'd finished, number 93 was done, and had a look at the sheet and saw how other people had gone on, saw that Ian had broken his personal best and he'd be really happy, and others. Then for the first time in over 24 hours I sat down, and I couldn't reach down to get my socks off, so bless him, Steve and Donald helped me to take my socks off. Then went in for a shower, came back out, and there was a physio laid on, so this girl gave me a really good physio on my thighs, and I was able just to at least try and get some of the pain out, but it was sore. And as I lay on that table just thinking about it, I was almost falling asleep, and I would have if the pain on my thighs wouldn't have stopped me. But it was just such a sense of accomplishment, having broken 23 hours and finishing in a time of 22 hours 45.
Down the bottom.
It's now Sunday morning at 10:45, so it's exactly 12 hours from when I finished my race. Finished in 22 hours 45, came 26th, and really, really pleased. It was a great day. I loved it. It was such a challenge, but really, really hard work. I was going so well to King's House. I was well ahead of schedule, and looking at even a lot quicker time. But the last 20 miles from King's House was tough. My thighs were just so sore, and I basically had to walk most of the way for the last 20 miles. So instead of taking about 5.5 hours for that time, it took me 7.5. But that was fine, because in a sense I built in time to be able to do that and still break 23 hours, which was what my goal was. Now I feel absolutely tired. My legs are so sore. My thighs, I can't stand up without help, I can't walk without a bit of help. I feel like a real old man who's struggling. We just had some breakfast, we're in our tent, and we're just about to head down to the prize giving, and I'm just so looking forward to meeting everybody and hearing their stories and receiving my winning crystal for completing the 2007 West Highland Way race. So I'm very happy and very pleased that I was able to do the time.
welcome you so much this year to the race. But I know a lot of people will feel that they've known us. There's an online blog for his training. I feel as if he's been running the race for about 21 years. Very, very popular man. He's made great friends with a lot of the training runs, and he's always been quick to answer questions from folks and ask questions from experienced runners, offer good advice. John Kynaston. Funny enough, the people are very involved. About Tuesday or Wednesday last week, he was already talking about his want to train for next Tuesday.
Overtaking my heart, you take me in, finding peace again. The fear is lost, you know you are, and I will give the world to tell your story, 'cause I know that you called me. Know that you called me. I've lost myself for good within your promise, and I won't hide it, I won't hide it. And Jesus, I believe in you, and I would go to the ends of the earth, to the ends of the earth. For you, alone are the Son of God, and all the world.
Hi, it's now Sunday evening, just after 10 o'clock, and for the last hour or so, Joe has been doing a tremendous job on just doing massaging my sore thighs and legs, and putting Sudocrem on my toes and my blisters. And so the race finished almost 24 hours ago, and it does feel really, really sore. Back home now, we got home at 6 o'clock, and I had a bath, and then I've basically just been lying here ever since, and ready to fall asleep. Just about to have some soup, and then I'll try and sleep as long as I can.
Overtaking my heart, you take me in, finding peace again. The fear is lost, you know you are, and I will give the world to tell your story, 'cause I know that